Good morning, good afternoon, namaste, and hello to all. And welcome all of you to the MICE Conference 2.0, which is co-located with the MICE Conference and the Life Expo 2020 event. And we are pleased to welcome the global leaders from different arms of MICE industry today with us, who have taken out time to join us for this session. So, just to give you a little brief, that this event, the MICE conference, which was last year in New Delhi, it was physical, and the time has, pushed us to this new normal of virtual, and we are making it co-located with Life Expo. And let me introduce everyone before we start the session today, the esteemed speakers who have joined us today, starting with Mrs. Kimali Fernando. She is Chairperson, Sri Lanka Tourism. Welcome, Mrs. Fernando, to the session. Mr. S. Balasubramanian, President IEIA, Indian Exhibition Industry Association. Welcome, Mr. Bala. Mr. Phil Chung, CEO, Kinexin Convention Management Private Limited, IICC India Operating Company. Mr. Matthias Baur Tesi, founder of MBB Consulting Group. And last but not the least, Mr. Mark Cochrane, Regional Manager, Asia Pacific for UFI. So, welcome all to the show, and starting first with the opening remarks from all panelists, I'll take it one by one. That how is this new world and related to MICE? If we can get quick updates from your regions, what is your feeling? What is the crux of various sessions you are doing globally? I'm sure everybody is busy in getting some knowledge, sharing some knowledge. So if we can get quick updates, I can give everyone maybe 1 or 2 minutes to quickly share with us the quick updates, starting with Mrs. Fernando to start with. Over to you, Mrs. Fernando. So you can unmute yourself.
Thank you very much. Let me quickly update you on what has happened in Sri Lanka. Since 30th of April, we have not had any community transmission. We've to date have had, unfortunately, 12 deaths. Colombo, Sri Lanka has got back to normal. The domestic tourism is fully open since end of May. We actually started quite a stringent process very early on. So we had a lockdown, curfew, perhaps a little bit contrast to Europe, but you couldn't even go to the shops and whatever. So it was quite a strict process that we started February, March, and I think we've had really good results because of that. So now business work is back to normal. Schools are open, universities are open, everything is normal. We've made some safety steps with regard. We've used PCR tests a lot. That's what our health officials are keen on. And I will explain later on how we have managed that. Airports have never been closed, so we've had visitors coming in if they're connected to Sri Lankans or Sri Lankans or diplomats or what have you. Flights going out has always been open, so any of us can travel overseas if we wish. Thank you.
Great to know that business is back to normal in Sri Lanka, and congratulations to Sri Lanka for that. Now I'll move to Mr. S. Balasubramaniam for a quick update on the exhibition sector from IEIA side. Over to you, Mr. Bala. So I think you need to unmute yourself.
Good morning to you all. Thank you, Sachin, and thanks for this opportunity. It's a pleasure being there at the MICE Conference 2.0. Well, in India, we were also shut down since March 2020. The shows in India were totally a washout, and there has been no exhibition since March 2020. In India, we've been having the first lockdown, which was announced in March 22 onwards. And after that, we had 5 different versions of lockdown, which is announced by the government. After the lockdown, we had a series of unlock versions, we had 3 unlock versions. And the one being the last month, and we are expecting this weekend probably the unlock version 4 being announced. So the exhibition, we are also very positive that the exhibition would be part of the unlock guidelines appearing there, so that we are ready. Of course, it may not be immediately, but we are looking at sometime around a month later, maybe somewhere around November. Of course, in terms of COVID cases, we were a little bad, but we have recovered a lot. In terms of recovery rate is much above 76% at the moment, and we are doing pretty good. The guidelines for lockdown has been bit city-centric. Every city had their own rules and regulations in terms of guidelines people traveling. At the moment, everything is open. The city which I belong to, Bangalore, we had some restriction, people coming from other cities. But since last 1 week, it's open. And they were saying that people coming from other cities, they have to quarantine themselves. Earlier, it used to be institutional quarantine. Now it's all home quarantine. Anybody traveling from other cities, they can come in and they can do a home quarantine. In terms of exhibitions, we have close to around 200 shows which got cancelled and postponed since March 2020, which included some other large shows. So there's going to be a big hit in terms of economic activity to the exhibition industry as well as to the participants. But we're keeping our fingers crossed, and probably we're hoping that we would be included as part of our opening up or a restart, probably during the Unlock 4.0 versions, expecting to be announced this weekend. So that's the situations we have at the moment in India. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Mr. Bala. So industry has been hit hard. That is for sure, and I could see a lot of activities which IEIA is doing. We could see that on various platforms. So thanks for the quick update. Moving on to Mr. Phil Chung from Korea, from Kintex. So Phil, what you have to say to update our joiners today?
Hi, this is Phil Chung here. I'm CEO of IICC operating company. Due to the prolonged international travel issues these days, for the time being, I'm now staying in South Korea office at Kintex. For a quick info, our New Delhi operation, Kinexin, is a sister company of Kintex that is the biggest Korean venue as well as a leading show organizer in Asia. And Isang Network, that is also one of Korea's leading trade show organizer, publicly traded, one being listed in Kosdaq. Firstly and most importantly, as was witnessed in Korea, Taiwan, or China, in order to run the shows again, I think we should see the reassuringly lowered level of corona curve first. At least people should be reassured that things are under control through compulsory and voluntary measures of all types and public campaigns and educations. We've resumed exhibitions here in Korea in Kintex venue from May 1st, as there was a somewhat subdued public sense of reassurance that the citizens are well-trained and public awareness was there to have organizers say things are now pretty much under control. And we ran about 20 shows in this Korea venue from 1st of May this year, where there happened to be 0 infection case in our venue. Like Korea case, once the India curve gets meaningfully controlled and lowered in no time, organizers can conduct shows in earnest with SOPs developed together with India government and industry associations. Realistically, venues will have to reflect them within their R&R and share the burden with the organizer by giving them relevant level of supports. Venue operator can even consider giving organizers enough spaces for their safe registration without congestion on site. That's what venue guys can do. And venue can give some strategic support discount for the time being for venue rental to have the organizers spend some additional budget for their further hygiene preparations and more. I remember I had shared Kintex Korea disinfection cases and preventive measures that we have taken during our recent exhibition held in Kintex, even with Sachin, the publisher of this magazine, has that we are happy to share the details with all others if they are in need. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Phil, for this update, which is coming live from Korea. And I'm sure someone can take the quick tips, and we're ready to share the material which you have shared with us. Thank you. So I'm now moving on to Matthias Tesi. Tesi from UK. So Tesi has been quite active. I've seen on platforms like Exhibition Think Tank. So Tesi, over to you for a quick update for all of us. Thank you.
Yeah, hi everybody, and thanks a lot for inviting me to this great event. Yeah, an update from UK and from Europe. So far over the last month, I think we got the cases also quite well under control. Cases went down to a very, very good level, and also Europe, I would say, we understand the pandemic much, much better now. So the knowledge base of what we had 3 months ago was an entirely different than the knowledge base we have now, which really enables us to plan to reopening events again. We have in Germany, events are allowed. In UK, we are looking forward to October. That events can be back in the venues, and so far some venues or some even big venues are really planned to go ahead. So I know that, for example, Caravan in Düsseldorf is planned, whilst other events that could open, the exhibitors are still a little bit shy maybe when it comes to traveling. What we are currently having, or the really latest development in Europe, is that cases are rising specifically in South Europe, and as we have been in the holiday season at the moment, people were traveling in Europe a lot, which means a lot come from the holiday countries back, which increases the cases we have on a day-by-day basis, but not to a very concerning level at the moment. So it is a situation to watch. But we understand also that lockdown doesn't have to be a national lockdown. We can manage even little outbreaks or little lockdowns, I think, much, much better than the governments and the local governments were able to do 3 months ago. What's going on in the industry, we have organized the exhibition think tank, and we talked to many people from the industry. How should we react? And I think we have extremely hopeful signs. So we have a lot of companies moving into serious strategy phases now and into serious scenario plannings, and really to get prepared for the 4 possible scenarios we have going back to life. Industry will increase, industry will decline, or we move into hybrid events. And I see that a big number of companies are putting serious strategy work into place at the moment, which I think is needed and which I see very well underway at the moment for European companies. So far my update. Next month will be crucial, but I think we are reacting in a much more strategic way at the moment as an industry, which is great to see.
Sure. Thank you, Tesi, for this update on UK and Europe on the exhibition industry. Now moving on to Mark Cochrane from UFI. So what is the UFI update, Mark? If you can update us in 2 minutes. Over to you.
2 minutes. Okay. Thanks, Sachin. And thank you for the invitation to be here today. So in my role at UFI, regional manager in Asia, we cover the whole region. So I'll give you just a couple highlights from what we're seeing and hearing from our members around the region. So in Hong Kong, where I'm based, things are still, I wouldn't call it lockdown, but there's a lot of restrictions in place. So international travel is not possible, obviously, because there's a quarantine for anybody arriving. Groups of people are only allowed to congregate even in restaurants in groups of 2. So the event industry is obviously not going ahead at all here. The number of cases is really quite manageable at this point. I think there's about between 400 and 500 active cases, and we're adding an average of about 20 a day, I guess. So I think everybody's hopeful that the restrictions will ease soon here in Hong Kong. The high season for exhibitions and trade shows coming up is really second half of September, October, November. So that's a really crucial time, is to see whether organizers are going to lose the whole year or whether they'll be able to salvage some of it. The issue with Hong Kong is that the events here are really international, and that's also very true of Singapore, somewhat true of other markets like, say, KL or Bangkok, and that makes it more difficult to have successful events in the months remaining in 2020. The markets that are more hopeful, I think that obviously China is the one that's most back to normal in terms of exhibitions. And obviously because the economy is so large, there are so many domestically focused events. A lot of them are going ahead now without international participation. So I just spoke to one of our members this morning in Shanghai, Michael Krupper at SNEAC. He said they've already hosted 30 B2B exhibitions since I think they got back to business in May, either late May or early June. So things are rolling along, heading in the right direction in China. And as Tessie mentioned, the lockdowns are different now. They're not countrywide, especially in China. They're looking at doing localized ones, which allows events to go ahead a little more. Other markets in Asia that I think are optimistic in what we have left in 2020 would be Phil's home market in Korea and potentially Japan, again, because these are large enough that they have big domestic markets and the events can survive on their own without international participation, or some of the events can survive that way. Okay, I'll leave it there for a quick overview and then happy to address questions as we go along.
Sure. Thank you, Mark. So now I'll take the first question, which is, might be difficult, but, everyone has to work. That is the road to unlock my business. And now I'll move to Mrs. Fernando because she has a meeting in some time. So I'll move this question to Mrs. Fernando if she can share the case study of Sri Lanka with us, how they are unlocking the MICE and the travel business specifically. So over to you, Mrs. Fernando.
Thank you. What we have actually done is we have started certifying the hotels we have given it to KPMG to certify hotels, first of all. So we have a detailed guideline which goes into 80-90 pages, and auditing process is going on by KPMG to accommodate international tourists. It's quite a stringent guideline, and you've got to apply as a hotel or accommodation sector to be considered. The second thing we have done is we have actually created an app which will be incorporated into the immigration application process, which would require you to fill out exactly which certified hotel you will be staying in and the exact dates. This information will be automatically be sent to the health authorities in the 25 districts. We have 25 districts in Sri Lanka. So the health authorities will get an email saying these passport holders will be in this hotel and so on, so that they would be informed of guests in the country. We would be requiring PCR tests to be done on arrival. Now I know a lot of airlines are requesting for a PCR test 72 hours before. We had that requirement, but that was removed simply because we found that the airlines are also anyway requiring it. So from a current guideline is that 72 hours before from the airline's perspective. From our perspective, on when you arrive, we will do a PCR test, which will take about 1.5 to 2 hours. The government has looked at, it's got some technology, I believe it is from Denmark, where you can do the test with robotic arms and so on. So because convenience is a big issue for clients, for our guests. So we are looking at a separate area and so on for each flight where you could have coffee, tea, whatever, hang out for 1.5 hours to 2 hours. And then you will be going on your journey in the arranged transport. The health authorities are looking at, they are currently insisting that between the 5th to the 7th day that another PCR test should be done. So that's what it is today. I think that we also, when we did some research, we found that even our own citizens, our Sri Lankans first need to be comfortable So we are doing various programs. 2 areas we are focusing on. One is to train the people, everybody. I mean, each district we have teams going. We have got some funding agencies who are assisting us. So district by district, we are going and training the tourism sector, how to be safe, what you need to do, how you can take care of a client without making it too, sort of making it pleasant, but how do you do that, safeguarding yourself. So that training is going on all over the country with the help of some funding agencies. We are also looking at, we also started the process for some kind of a PR, so that there's no backlash or some kind of because Sri Lanka's actually, the 22 million people are now very comfortable. We don't seem to have like issues. So the only COVID cases we are getting is always imported, and they are all Sri Lankans coming back. So there is kind of a resistance with some people to open the airport and so on. So we are doing sort of a PR campaign to convince them that, look, we are looking at the guests who come will be tested and you will be safeguarded, the guests will be safeguarded and so on. The airport opening the date was postponed, or it was not decided as yet, simply because 3 things actually. One is because lots of Sri Lankans are now wanting to come back home. Dual passport holders, single passport holders, or they have family members here, whatever the reason, they want to come back home. So we've given preference for them to return. Number 2 is the PCR testing capacity. Now that is being increased actually. And the third is that what is happening globally, because our bigger markets, our focus markets, are all having issues. So we are looking at how we can work together. And in fact, I met personally the Indian ambassador in Sri Lanka now 2-3 times, including yesterday. So looking at how we could work together, whether it is to do, whether we allow charter flights, or whether we have, I know India has something like 600 private jets of people who wanted to fly. So whether we start with that and combine MICE with luxury or MICE with wellness, because a lot of countries like Sri Lanka, we wouldn't want somebody to visit us for 1 or 2 days, simply because the requirement of the 5th to the 7th PCR testing. So for MICE, it's always a challenge then. So this is something I would like to hear also from the experts on this panel as well, how we should go about doing that, because whether we could combine it together and arrive at something. But I think Sri Lanka, we are keen to open and take baby steps. Slowly, we will take small steps forward. And we are looking forward to working with India, because India, of course, is our biggest market. And I think going forward, more so than before, I think India, Middle East, these are the countries that the proximity is one. And also the flights we have several flights, daily flights going. So yes, looking forward to the decision made by the health authority. I think the cabinet is discussing this paper that we have submitted about when to open. So we are waiting for a decision for that. But we are getting ourselves organized here. And I think there are certain things that we also as a government needs to do. So we are looking at the touch points of a consumer, the areas where we can improve. So we're using this really little bit of an opportunity to reset little bit Sri Lanka in terms of how we do things in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Fernando, for this case study and how you're handling the situation and the way forward for the travel and MICE business. So thank you so much for coming here today. So if you wish, you can stay here for a few more minutes and then feel free to log out as we have another meeting. Thank you so much. So I'll move to Bala sir. So Bala sir, what is your views on unlocking this road? I could see, a lot of initiatives which IEIA is taking right now, approaching the government and doing lots of meeting with ministers and updating them on the industry sector update, the tough times which we are facing. So over to you for this unlocking.
I'm sorry. Yeah, thanks once again, Sachin. And as I mentioned, that we've been into lockdown since March 2020, and since then we've been doing various activities in terms of customer engagement or the stakeholder engagement. We have done a series of webinars, a series of even master classes on all different subjects that we had, and even Tessie was one of the programs that he conducted as part of the master class. So we kept ourselves engaged in terms of many activities in terms of knowledge sharing to the stakeholders of our membership from the Indian exhibition industry. Parallelly, we also did many of our representation to the government, because it's very, very important, because since we were badly hit in terms of estimated 3 lakh crores of business loss due to exhibition, because exhibitions is a revenue earner, it's an economic multiplier. So many things were at risk, and so we had several representations made to different various governments, which is right from Ministry of Industry and Commerce to Ministry of Tourism and MSME, which is the small scale industry. We did several representation to the government, and slowly we've been progressing as the unlock lockdown getting over. We went to the unlock situations. What was very, very paramount to our own industry was that we do a restart. So the restart campaign started since then. And if you have seen in the last few days, there has been a very enormous activity in terms of the different stakeholders, right from the people at the bottom of the pyramid to the the organizers to the venue owners. We've been doing a strong campaign so that we try and reach out to the government officials to make them understand how exhibitions plays an important role in the economy of the country. So we've been doing a very strong restart campaign, which has been going actively in various social media campaigns. In the last few days, we have seen it in many of those Indian newspaper medias appearing that our request reaches to the government officials, and we appear in the unlock guidelines, which it's going to be there soon. In fact, if you see the industry, our Indian exhibition industry has been growing fairly well in terms of 10% on year until the last year, and 2020 was looking very promising for us, and that's when we hit the COVID hit us very badly, and we've been navigating the worst storm of the century, and it's been pretty difficult for us. And 2020 is definitely look like it has been a virtual for every one of us. We've been virtually, of course, it has drained us, many of our industry, fraternity, physically and mentally, and in terms of financially also. So these are some of the factors. What we're trying to do is, we have also done a very well-crafted standard operating procedures, which is all the minds put together from the exhibition industry. We have drafted ourselves. We have done it from the exhibition industry. We have also closely worked with the ITPO, which is the Indian Trade Promotion Organizations, on the SOP. So we both work together, and the standard operating procedure is currently with the government, which is the Ministry of Home Affairs, and we expect the standard operating procedures to be sent out to the industry in terms of what are the guidelines to be followed. And when the government announces there could be a gathering, currently the gatherings is limited to around 50 people. So whenever I believe there has also been a request gone from the Ministry of Tourism to open up banquet halls and conference facility to the extent of 50%. So this is something looks like on the annual. This is probably should be happening very soon. So once that comes in, so standard operating procedures should be all sent to the exhibition industry. Currently, many of the venues in India is also under the COVID care center. Like our own exhibition center in Bangalore has been a COVID care center, the one in Bombay also, and Chennai and some of the small metro cities. Few are not under the purview, but in spite of we being under the COVID care center, we have already drafted, we have kept our standard operating procedures ready. So whenever the exhibitions start off, this could be sent out to the organizer. And one thing which is very, very important, critical at the moment, one very factor which is very important is building up confidence in the minds of the stakeholders. Whether it is exhibitions organizers, which venue has to play a very important role whenever exhibitions comes in at the venue, what kind of precaution, what kind of safety protocol they're going to follow, which is what is need to be communicated to the exhibition organizer. And the exhibition organizer in turn has to work on in terms of building the confidence of the visitors who are going to come in. So only when then probably you will see people coming to the exhibitions like they used to come before, or at least to a certain extent, once the confidence is built up, there will have a good kind of synergy which needs to be built among all the stakeholders. So the confidence is very, 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 very important. Among these venues, as I mentioned, everybody is ready with the standard operating procedures. At the moment, there's going to be some kind of announcement coming in. This is going to kick in, and we're going to start using it, and we want to make a very confident this thing that everything is right. Things are normal at the venue. Of course, we had certain issues at the venue, which is currently there, but that's going to go off in soon, and probably then it will be ready for exhibitions. Also, among the exhibitions organized, the preparedness, and the preparedness has to be there. Of course, like the venue is working, with the policymakers are working, exhibitions organizers are working with their own domain in terms of getting ready for the situation. So whenever it opens, of course, it may not be, you may not have large exhibition coming up very soon, but there might be a smaller exhibition. There are conference model, which requires probably a month's time or a couple of months. They will be able to announce conference. So they have to do within their own desk, own space, in terms of how do they prepare themselves whenever it opens up. They're getting ready to, in terms of launching their own events in the space. The general, there's going to be a trust deficit among the entire stakeholders. So entire industry has to work and build those confidence among everyone. So that's then a very, very important factor which everybody has to work. Whether it is the government or the exhibition organizer or the venue owner, that's very, very important at the moment. So that's from my side in terms of what are the precautions, what are the factors that involved for us to unlock. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bala sir, for this update. And I do buy your point that rebuilding confidence is what gonna matter most as far as getting visitors to your shows are concerned. Until and unless they are secure of visiting, then only this road can be opened at least for these exhibitions. So I'll move on to Tessie now. So Tessie, what is your take on opening this road to MICE business? Over to you.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much. I want to mention 3 points very briefly. Before I mention it, I want to say a big thank you, first of all, in unlocking this to the associations, as we have 2 associations here on the call. I think they have done really an absolutely amazing job in the last 4 or 5 months to inform the people and really to put confidence in ourselves that our industry will move forward. So the 3 points to unlock the MICE industry, in my view, and this is a view of a consultant, is first to work intensively and to work as closely as possible with your customers. We had 2 months ago one very big exhibitor group approaching us, a group who is funding country pavilions and asking us, exhibitions are down, we can't go to exhibitions, we can't fund country pavilions. What should we do in this time? So it is not only the case that we as an industry of organizing exhibitions or supplying exhibitions think how can we reopen. Also our main target groups, our customers, are sitting since 5 months and think, okay, I need exhibitions. What else can I do to support my business to go forward? So it is an old wisdom. You should be close to your customer and you should be close, you should have a customer-centric approach. This approach is even more important in the crisis. Even if the customer is something you might not like, even if the customer is moving away from the idea of joining an exhibition, you need to know that to be able to make the customer a good offer to actually come back to the exhibition once the crisis is over. So being close to the customer is super, super important. The second thing is what we work with a lot of clients is to create a post-crisis USP. And we have released the crisis recovery guide about that. And the idea of that is that reopening your exhibition like it was before the crisis will not be good enough. You need to have the extra reason, you need to have the extra USP, you need to have the extra benefit of the customer once the crisis is over, why the exhibitors should come back to the exhibitions, why the visitors should come back to the exhibitions, and why your platform is the best platform to make business. And one out of that, and I think we talk a little bit in the next question about that, is for sure hybrid events. And then I will talk a little bit how I see hybrid events and what in my view hybrid events are. But the last point for this question is to create a hygiene concept. I think we all did this. What maybe not all people do is to take this hygiene concept absolutely serious, more and more to overachieve on the concept. And I give you a quick example. I just told Mark I was traveling 3 weeks ago on my first business trip. Yay, great. And I went to the airport, to Heathrow in London, and I was pretty impressed that everything was very well organized with social distancing, and the staff were trained, and the boarding and the boarding process was all very good. But at the check-in of the 5 staff, 1 didn't wear a mask. And nobody said to the staff, you should wear a mask. Or in the aircraft, they tried to disembark the aircraft with row 1 to 5, and then in 1 row stood up and stormed forward. And the staff didn't say, sorry, can you please sit down? And this is, in the times of reopening, trust will be the most important currency we will have. And the people must trust us that our hygiene concepts are not only in place, we also absolutely enforce the hygiene concept. So that is the mistake we could do, is not to follow our own rules by 120%, because we would lose trust from our customers. And that is something I think is super important, is really to put hygiene concepts in place and then really to overachieve on the goals we have given ourselves in these concepts. So these are the 3 points to reopen the industry from my view, from a consultant view. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Kinexin. Very, very valid points which you have shared. Now moving on to Mark from UFI. So what is your take on this road to MICE business? Over to you, Mark.
Thanks, Sachin. So I'll keep it short. I think a lot of the comments were really helpful on the operational side. I'll just share some maybe at the more macro level that we're seeing our members talk about around the region here in Asia. So the first thing is to be prepared for ongoing waves of infection. That we've already seen that in Asia, in markets that are really have a reputation of handling it quite well. Even in those markets, we've seen the infections come back and come in second waves. In my hometown here in Hong Kong, in Japan, even in New Zealand, they've had second waves as well. So this is inevitable until we get an effective treatment or a vaccine. This is going to keep happening. So I think we need to push our governments to be as transparent as possible for what's the threshold when they're going to close down events, when they're going to put certain restrictions in place. Because if we don't have those, it's impossible for organizers to go ahead. They don't know that with any confidence about whether they're going to be able to do an event, for example, here in Hong Kong in October or November. But if we have thresholds, they'll have a clearer idea. Second point is the establishment of travel bubbles. I think that's the thing when I do calls with the members. It's the number one thing that comes up. So travel bubbles meaning restriction-free or greatly reduced restrictions between markets, between so-called safer markets or markets where they have the infections under control. We haven't seen that. I mean, it's moving super slowly. Even, going back to May, we thought Hong Kong only had a few dozen, and we thought there was going to be a travel bubble established with Taiwan, with Thailand, possibly with Korea, and none of that is happening. It's moving really slowly. Even between the borders between Macau, Hong Kong, and China are nowhere near fully open yet. So in order for the events that our members, UFI's members in Asia organize, we really need some quarantine-free travel. I think, I don't know this to be the case, but I've heard that the Singapore government is looking at, instead of just doing a whole country, they're considering putting countries into buckets, like safer countries with infections more under control and then less so. And then prioritizing travelers. So business travelers or MICE travelers from Malaysia might be able to come quarantine-free into Singapore. I think that's the kind of thinking we need for the industry to get started again across the region. And the last one, I know a couple people already said it, but I got to say it again because I think it's one of the most important, is stakeholder confidence. They have to have confidence in our events. They have to have confidence that they can go ahead and organize their events. We, as organizers, you also have to be in touch with your exhibitors and your visitors to find out whether they want to go ahead? Because I think as an industry, we're all really excited about getting back to business, but I've heard multiple examples of organizers who are in markets where the government restrictions get eased. They're excited to go back and organize an event. And then when they check in with their exhibitors and visitors, actually they say, no, we'd rather wait till 2021. So obviously there are things we can do to boost that confidence, but we also have to follow what their needs and desires are. And if our stakeholders want to put it off until next year, there's not much we can do about that. Thanks.
Thanks, Mark. So very valid points, and I take your point of establishing travel bubbles. And there was a news last week that India is in touch with 13 more countries to talk on the travel bubble arrangements. So hopefully the good news shall be back very soon, that we can establish some more countries to come on that travel bubble platform where we can start some travel. Okay, thank you. And now moving on to Phil. So Phil, over to you for your session for quick updates from your side on unlocking this road to MySpace.
According to our experience here in Korea, because I cannot travel to India right now, but so I've been witnessing, what is happening here in Korea as a kind of test bed. So my point is that organizers should take initiatives and the community will follow. But the premise is that there should be a kind of strong public sentiment that the corona curve is reassuringly lowered and things are under control. And then the organizers and visitors can simply implement the hygiene guidelines, and the rest is a kind of trivia, I guess. So you have WHO guideline, SOPs that you have been developing with so many associations in Korea and in many other cases. And Korea cases are all available to the organizers. So that is a point of view.
Okay, sure. Thank you. Thanks, Phil, for this update. And so now I'll move on to the next question, which we have for all of you, is the question of virtual, hybrid, and all this type of events. Someday we also feel like this is kind of an opportunity for small players to get into small virtual events and, start with smaller shows. And maybe the next step looks apart from virtual is getting to the hybrid model. So I'll take this question straight to S. Balasubramanian from IEIA. Over to you, Bala sir, on this virtual and hybrid. Thank you.
Thanks. I think Tessie would have been the best person to say that we've done a lot of research in the last few months, and we have an exhaustive research done on this. Okay, coming to my own perspective in terms of live, definitely, I'm sure Mark would also agree. In various forums earlier, we have discussed very seriously and vehemently talking about virtual, the place of virtual in the face-to-face scenario, which we never thought that would come in. But since COVID comes in, after the COVID, everybody is onto the virtual space. Everybody seems to be busy caught up to the virtual space, and not just doing the exhibitions. A session like this also, which we couldn't do it physical, we are working on. So virtual is currently the norm at the moment. It's a new normal, and that's coming as a saving grace for everybody in terms of staying connected. So live is definitely going to be faced, definitely going to be one which cannot be replaced by any kind of things. But going forward, definitely there are other two things, which is hybrid, which is definitely looking better as best of the two worlds, because you have both virtual coming in as the same, they can be digitally connected. People who are not able to travel that far, they can be staying at the place wherever they are and looking at making use of the hybrid scenario. So hybrid would probably definitely be looking like in a better scenario coming along with complementing with a physical event. But virtual definitely currently at the moment, it's playing a very good role in terms of staying connected, making this is being a very good platform by using different medias to stay connected in terms of sharing knowledges, this is a time when we have to stay connected and use best practices and help the industry. So virtual is definitely being there at the current moment, but going forward, definitely hybrid will play definitely a good role in terms of whenever the face-to-face comes in. But I'm always a big fan of face-to-face, which will definitely continue, and that will be the norm, and that will stay forever in the times to come. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for this. Yeah, of course, face-to-face has to stay, as everyone is saying, and that is the reality. So moving on to Tessie for a quick update on virtual versus hybrid versus face-to-face. Over to you, Tessie, for your remarks.
Okay, thank you very much. And I quickly share my screen with you to show you 2 or 3 slides. The PowerPoint presentation. So I hope you can see my screen now. Please let me know if you can't see it. So we did, as I said at the beginning, we did a think tank, and in the think tank we investigated with 150 people around the world which are the areas that really need to change in the exhibition industry in future. And here you can see a slide of how we investigated the areas, and it was quite surprisingly that we identified 35 areas that should be reviewed and that should change in our industry, with for sure a different importance score. And hybrid, beside value proposition and having more diverse people, hybrid was for sure one of the main topics of what needs.
Sorry, Tessie, to disturb you. I can't see your presentation. Is that the case with everyone?
Yeah, we can't see.
You can't see?
So. No, it's just your picture. Maybe you need to select the screen you want to show. Maybe you can try again.
Okay, 1 second. I stop. So now, presentation. Can you see it now?
Yeah, I can see it now.
Okay, perfect. Okay, great. Thanks a lot for alerting me. So yeah, as I said, these are the areas very quickly which we investigated, and these were 35 areas. 4 areas really stood out, and one of the 4 areas was really hybrid events. So what we did with hybrid events, we just are about to release a study about hybrid events in which we do 2 things. First, we define the term hybrid event, what is actually a hybrid event. And then we have developed also a framework how to rate and how to judge a hybrid event. And very quickly regarding the definition, we base it on 3 pillars. The first is the utilization of digital functions, then the expansion of the term trade show, what is actually a trade show, and then the third pillar of the definition is what is the balance between on-site aspects and online aspects of a trade show. And the first pillar is what is or how to utilize a digital function. And here it's very simple that in the past we developed digital tools always to support the on-site days. So the USP came only through live, through the trade show days, through the face-to-face. And in future, digital functions need to carry a benefit and a USP in their own right, which is a paradigm change of how we see digital compared to the past. The second is what is a trade show? At the moment, we talk about the trade show about the open days when people really can meet face-to-face. And in a hybrid event, as I said, a digital tool needs to carry a benefit or a USP. The trade show term needs to be widened to the time before and after the trade show, where people can meet online and people can also do business online. But then, and this is very important in the definition also, what is the balance between online and digital on-site tools? And here we put in our definition the on-site, because I totally agree with Balal, is there's nothing over face-to-face. So 75% of the USP of the benefits need to come live through face-to-face, but also with an online tool, it needs to come to face. But the big focus is still on the trade show, on face-to-face, but supported much more through digital tools. This is our definition. And then the question is, what is the framework? How do we create this benefit through digital tools? And what does it mean for the customers? And in the framework, we did two things very quickly. We rated all channels and we grouped them into three main pockets. So one-to-one meetings or panel discussions, exactly what we do at the moment, would fall under the pocket networking and communication. Then we have the pocket brand building, and then we have the pocket content and resources. So these are the three main categories of what exhibitors and visitors actually want to do, and they can do it through online channels. And then we rated them against all kinds of business motivations. And I try to make this slide a little bit bigger whilst I'm talking. So here we have all the online channels. And here we have business exhibitor motivations like lead generation, like brand building, and so on and so on. And then we rated in the framework our channels against the exhibitor motivations and show which channel is serving which exhibitor motivation in the best time. And that brings us strategically into the position to say, okay, I want to have a strategy for a hybrid event. And I can build my strategy based on exhibitors' motivation, or I can validate what I've done in the past. And that, using this, would put us in the position really to rate and to judge how good and what the value of a hybrid trade show is. So we created this framework out of what I explained before. And then you could go to trade shows and see what is a trade show offering. Is a trade show offering in the hybrid section something for the networking pocket, or for the content pocket, or for the brand building pocket, and then you can start comparing trade shows to each other. And all this based with the fact what I said before, that the face-to-face momentum here should be still 75% of our USP. So that run through, I'm stopped sharing my slide now, but that was a very quick run through the work we have done with hybrid trade shows and the framework and the definition we created of how shows could be rated and judged in the future.
Sure. Thanks, Tracy. Thanks for sharing this framework. I would send you a separate email to get this on my email, and we can use it with some other people who would need that. So now I'll move to Phil. Phil, I've seen on various platforms is a big advocate of physical events. So would like to hear from you, Phil, on the virtual, hybrid, and face-to-face events. Over to you.
My take is hybrid, definitely hybrid, because I think hybrid is not new at all. And this is a good supplementary measure for exhibitions and conventions. And I saw numerous real-time live streaming surgery sessions and so on during numerous medical conventions held in Kintex and many other places. That's a kind of traditional format. We're even experimenting a hologram method and virtual conferencing for global conferences that can be concurrently held during the short time during a pandemic period, but things are not new at all. Rather, it is more like putting our focus on those tech options to further enhance our existing models. So virtual meetings are relatively fine, but virtual trade shows are failing. That's what I guess. Office spend much their time clicking around weird items in dizzy virtual world. The exhibition is like, gateway, I don't know, they're not patient and office workers are not excited about that. And they wish to break away from the steady, explore the new fresh air and all, food and culture and everything. So very simple reason. The virtual things can help organize, enhance their pre-show, at-show, and post-show marketing efforts through these COVID season opportunities, I guess. But if you met someone virtually, you will end up saying, let's meet at a real show sometime soon to discuss the real thing. Don.
Sure. Thanks, Will. It's good to hear, various different point of views, and I totally agree with you. Meeting over virtual platforms, end of the day, the last word is see you sometimes physically, right? This is what we use. So, all right, thanks for this. And moving on to Mark. Mark, what is your take on, virtual, hybrid, and physical events? Over to you.
Thanks, Sachin. I mean, I don't think anybody's done more research on it than Tessie. So Tessie's got the framework. Is very, very impressive work there. I don't know the answer. I don't think anybody really knows what's going to happen because obviously COVID-19 is acting as an accelerator. Never before have we talked so much about virtual or digital platforms. There's a lot of investment going on in the background. There's a lot of experimentation, which I think is good. We saw, I think someone mentioned earlier on the call, the Canton Fair was a digital version this year, and that was backed by Tencent, the Chinese e-commerce giant. And Alibaba has been experimenting with live streaming. They around the same time as the digital Canton Fair, they had some live streaming events. There's pros and cons. It can be done like any event. It can be done well or done poorly, and it depends on the quality of the platform. For international ones, the English ability of the live streaming demonstrator. But really what it's going to come down to is stakeholder acceptance. If they accept this as a platform, as a way to source from B2B events, then it's going to take off. Otherwise, I think there's a chance that the enthusiasm that we're seeing for digital platforms could wither as COVID-19 gets finally put behind us. So the key answer, I think, that we have to ask ourselves is, does this digital platform meet the objectives of the participants in the event, of the buyers and sellers that are going to a trade show? And if not, they're going to come back to where they've invested previously, which is on the show floor. That's where it's worked for them before, and they'll return to that to get contracts signed, to get real business done. That's not to say they can't be successful. I think it also depends on the industry, because some industries will lend themselves to digital platforms. Maybe finished consumer goods will be more easily moved online than maybe heavy equipment or machinery where it's a bigger an investment and you need to see a demonstration. So I think there's a lot of moving pieces, and I don't think any of us have a clear idea of which ones will succeed. But what's certain is I think it's a good thing that there's so much investment and interest going into these digital platforms, because our events will be improved as a result of this in the long run.
Sure. Thanks, Mark, for sharing your views. So, considering the time slot, I would request to my last question, where we can get your key message for the industry, if you can pass on to our viewers and our subscribers amid this pandemic. So, we can keep it short, maybe 30 to 40 seconds, starting with Mr. Bala. Over. You need to unmute, sir.
There's definitely no doubt that exhibition is a key enabler for the economy. It's a very good marketing tool which everybody appreciates and endorses. One very good what I also feel is basically during this crisis, we need to be future ready in terms of using of technology, or in terms of ready to change also. This crisis has put us in trouble. There's going to be many winners. There's going to be equally number of losers also. So unless we're going to be reinventing and re-strategizing ourselves, things looking difficult. So we need to be ready to reinvent and orient ourselves in terms of strategy, adopting technology, in terms of ready for change. That's a message from my end.
Sure. Thanks, Bala, sir. Now, moving on to Tesi. Tesi, what's your key message for the industry across the globe?
Yeah, very short. My key message is there is nothing over face-to-face, but we will not move back to the old world, which means trade shows will come back. We will meet, our industry will be prosper and we will grow again. But this does not liberate us from the duty to seriously work how we can use digital not to replace trade shows, to make trade shows better. That is my message to the industry, and thank you very much for inviting me to this great event.
Thanks, Stacey. Now moving on to please. If you want to say something, okay. All right. So moving on to Mark. Mark, what is your key message for the MICE, specifically exhibition industry?
Thanks, Sachin. And thanks again for the invitation here today. I think obviously this is an unprecedented crisis for our industry, and we're not nearly at the end of it yet. But there will be some good things that come out of it. One of them is the investment and the experimentation with digital platforms. Another is we can use this crisis to advocate, to communicate to our local governments about the importance of exhibitions and trade shows to the local economy, the national economies. So I took the liberty of posting in the discussion on the side one of the links to UFI's coronavirus resource page, where we've got lots of different tools and information that organizers and venues can use to get themselves through the crisis. So that's my key final message, and thanks again for the invitation today.
Thanks, Mark. So last message, taking it from Phil. Over to you, Phil.
I wrote down something for India, so if I have to say about India, the MICE industry is already huge. So create a lot more new business models once new venues get opened in the near future, like IICC Dwarka, New Delhi. You can develop more paid conferences, consumer shows, public events, professional seminars than just organizing routine events on behalf of government bodies. And India has lots of things to do to attract numerous traveling trade shows and conventions. So we have the market, technologies are there, and potential. So nowadays, logistics are fine, but the government and its bodies can help organizers or venues induce more international shows and conventions by adopting many government assistance programs. There are so many benchmarks like South Korea, Hong Kong, Thailand, Malaysia, or Singapore. So many charming dinner, airline, culture, event packages, and monetary and administrative support packages to promote their destination marketing efforts through CVBs and the local communities. We have 3 regional, like in Korea, central and local CVBs to help any international event coming to Kintex Korea, for an example. They all spend monetary incentive within criteria, and it worked really well. We can keep adopting such measures to market India. India has so many things to present. And if such measures were taken by India government, the MICE industry of India will see its heydays with more venue availability within many destinations.
Sure. Thanks, Phil, for this India-specific and wonderful message. And I'm sure this reaches some of the ears and they can take it forward. So thank you, everyone, for joining us today. And we are really, thankful for your presence and sharing your key knowledge with us. So look forward to see you, as everybody says at the end of session, look forward to see you at some physical event very soon. Till then, stay safe and stay healthy. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Sachin.
Thank you, Sachin.
So in case you want to use your VIP room, it's ready. You can have your private meetings. Thank you. And for the other people, the visitors to our show, we have booths already settled here. If you want to have your private meetings with the booths, various exhibitors we have for you. So we have got some lucky draws for you for all the visitors to the show. And you can have your private meetings. And on the last day, we are going to announce some lucky draw from our various partners. So on the left hand side, you can see the booth option where you'll find the various booth exhibitors. Go and grab your meeting, do your meeting, and on last day, keep checking for your lucky draw entries. If you are a winner, you will be notified through a live session. Till then, keep visiting, keep your hunt for business on, and start living a new life through this virtual expo of on live expo. Take care. Bye bye. This is Sachin Manocha signing off from the platform now on behalf of My Media Group and Life Expo team.